The game I'm about to show you wasn't just a chess match. This was a collision between two very different forces. On one side, we have Ding Liren, the former world champion, calm, precise, a quiet killer on the board. And on the other hand, we have HANS Niemann, fearless, aggressive, and never out of the spotlight. They met at the Freestyle Grand Slam in Las Vegas, which was an online tournament, and selected participants are going to clash in Las Vegas against Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, and many more top players. And let me tell you, things got intense. In this video, I'll be breaking down two games from the clash, move by move, plan by plan. And to make sure things are even more interesting, it's a freestyle chess. Means no opening prep, just pure creativity from move 1. And that made this battle even more unpredictable. Whether you are here for sharp tactics, high level strategy, or just the storyline, you're going to love this game. So let's dive in. Okay, so the player who scores 1.5 points first will simply win the match. So we have the first game. Ding is playing with the white pieces. It's a rapid game, 15 minutes and some increment like 5 seconds or maybe 10 seconds, I don't know, maybe 2 seconds. So yeah, Ding is playing with white, and just to make sure what's happening, which position is this on the board, the rooks are on the corner, the king is on b1, the knights are on c1 and f1, the bishop are on d1 and g1, and the queen is on e1. Okay, so basically the rooks are originally as placed as normal chess, and the other place are basically shuffled up. So starting with the Ding, he opened the game with 1d4. As we know, he's a 1d4 player. He likes to play in the center. So we have 1d4. We have d5 by HANS. We have knight to d3. Just trying to develop the knight, trying to make sure to control the squares of e5 and c5 at the same time. Basically not allowing black to push the pawn to d5. We have knight to d6, black is doing the same stuff, knight to d2, and now the idea of knight d2 is kind of pretty simple. White wants to play the move e4. We have the move f5, trying to stop the move e4. We have f3, anyways white is going to play the move e4, c6, and now we have the move a4 by Ding. Ding already going for playing on the side of the board by playing the move a4. The idea is pretty sensible. We are just trying to grab more space as possible on the queen side, and maybe the idea could be to castle up on the king side usually. So we have the move knight to d7, and actually, to be very frank with you guys, a4 is actually the best top engine chess move, which is actually even more shocking. We have the move h4, once again the best move in the position by Ding. We have the move bishop to c7, and now we have bishop to h2. Once again, the best move available in this position. And now we have the move h6, and now we have the move a5. The best move would have been to play the move e4. The idea is pretty sensible. You are just striking in the center. Black have to take, and if black takes over here, now we can simply capture the bishop on c7, basically removing black's castling rights. And after queen cross e4, you will just simply notice that black king is extremely weak in the queen side, not in the center. Black is having an isolated pawn, and already white is pushing. White is already better. Instead, we have the move a5 by Ding. We have queen to g6, attacking the pawn on g2. And the possession is already +2. It has been only 8 moves, and it's already +2. We have the move rook to a4 by Ding. It's a pretty, I don't know what's the idea of rook a4. What's the rook even doing on a4? The best try would have been to push the pawn to h5. Obviously, you can't really take the pawn because of bishop takes the knight, and we attack the queen. And if black tries to capture the pawn on g2, we have the move bishop to f4, a very strong move, and you will realize the queen on g2 is no longer having any squares available, and it's at the verge of getting trapped. Maybe rook h2 and the queen is trapped. The queen is not really having even one square available to run away, and that's it. The game is over. Instead, we have rook a4, which doesn't really make any sense. We have the move knight c4, and now b3. We have a bishop trade, and I don't really get the idea why Ding simply did not took the bishop, because now HANS Niemann king can't really castle up in the future. Instead, he played the move b3, giving chance to HANS to capture the bishop. Rook h2, queen goes to d6, attacking the rook. We have to... Okay, so Ding pushed the pawn to f4. Once again, a pretty dicey move available in this position. White can just play the move knight f1, maybe just pulling the rook back, with the idea of keeping e4 available in the position. Instead, we have the move f4 now. e4 can never be possible because black is having two strong pawns in the center on d5 and f5. We have knight to a3 check, which was a bad move. The knight goes back, and now we have the move e3, just protecting the pawn on d4. And now black plays the move c5. White played the move knight to f3. I really did not get the idea why after c5, Ding did not took the pawn on f5 on c5. Because after takes queen c5, you will realize now the a4 rook is at least doing something after knight f3. Yeah, maybe the rook can go to d4. Obviously not now because the knight is covering the square. But here knight d4, knight e5 ideas are possible, and at least the a4 rook is participating in the game. Instead, we have the move knight f3, which was a bad move because it gave HANS Niemann some counterplay with c4 now. And now we have the move knight e5, knight e5, knight e5, queen c7, bishop e2. We have a check. The knight goes back, bishop goes to d3, and now we have to move bishop to e6. The idea of bishop d3 is kind of pretty clear. Whenever if black tries to put the knight on e4, white simply wants to chop it off, and the knight on e5 is simply better than the bishop on g8. And I believe, practically speaking up, positionally speaking up, I believe Ding would have been able to win this position pretty easily with the white pieces. Instead, we have bishop to e6 by HANS, rook to h3, and now we have to move b5, a very aggressive move attacking the rook on a4. If white tries to end pass in this position, which is a very beginner attractive move available in the position, after ab6, which is the only way, because if you try to capture with the queen, there is queen cross c3 and you lose the pawn, and even rook b4 is coming up, you lose the game. So you have to capture with the pawn, and after rook a8, king a8, white is still better. White is still having the advantage of at least plus 1.7 after rook g3, adding one more pressure on the pawn on g7. Instead, Ding decided to play the move rook to h3, rook to a3, allowing HANS Niemann to castle up short. Maybe he missed the complete idea that black can castle up on the king side. Like at the first glance, it looks absurdly weird, but it's possible. And now we have the move b4. And now we have rook to c8, rook to g3, knight goes to e4, bishop e4, d4. And now it looks like, okay, white is having a good knight, black is having a bad bishop. But the only difference here is, like, now the b4 pawn is weak. And second, the most important thing that is going to change the complete game is the rook on g3. You will realize the rook on g3 is not really doing anything. And it's pretty hard for the rook to go back. Like, it at least needs to move. King d1 was played in the game. The bishop goes back. King e2. So basically, Ding is trying to put his king on the king side, which is a good idea. And here, just queen to d6, attacking the pawn on the b4. So we have rook cross e3, and now we have a couple of straight. And now we have this position where we have king d2. b4, a very good move by HANS, not allowing Ding to push his pawn. And now, you see, we have this position where the rook on g3 is absolutely doing nothing. So the rook has to come back into the game with rook h3, rook h1, rook b1. So here we have b3. Takes, and now we have rook g3. Once again, a very bad move played by Ding. Why will you play rook g3? Like, I get the idea that, like, the black threat is to play the move rook c2 and capture the pawn. So white is just trying to protect it. And now the idea is to play the move rook to g6 and enter in black's position. Here we have a check. And now the bishop simply goes back to f7. And now, engine says it's an equal position. But practically speaking up, it's already a losing position for white. Why? The rook is out of game. Black is going to chop off the pawn on the a file, just trying to push the pawn. The knight is nicely placed, but absolutely doing nothing. It already looks like white's king is already on the last rank. It's already 0-1. And actually, why this position was equal was because after king d1, if the rook goes for attacking the pawn on a5, white is having knight c6, which not only defends his own pawn, but also attacks black's 2 pawn on e7 and a7. Instead, Ding played the move a6, which doesn't really make any sense. I don't know why. Bishop goes back to e8, which was a very classy move, not giving any counterplay to Ding, not allowing Ding to even capture the bishop. Just bishop goes back, king to d1, king comes up, and now basically after knight g6, just out of desperation, Ding decided to give up the knight for the pawn. Takes, and now just bishop f7. Once again the rook is trapped. g4 out of desperation. Takes, and in this very position, Ding Liren decided to resign the game, or maybe he lost on time. I don't know. It's a resignable position. Black is just a piece up. You're going to lose another pawn. Black is going to push his pawn and win the game. So out of the opening, Ding was having a very good position, a very good understanding. But when we entered in the middle game to the end game phase, we can already see how Ding Liren played a very bad chess and he simply won. And HANS simply outplayed him and he simply won. So yeah, this was the game number 1. Now the score is 1-0, 1-0. And if Ding wants to win against HANS Niemann, he has to strike in the next game. HANS Niemann just needs a draw to go into the next round. So let's see what happened in the second game. Okay, so we have the second game on the board. This time, HANS is playing with the white pieces, Ding is playing with the black pieces. Just before starting the game, I just want to mention the 960 position. The knights are on the a1 and h1. The rooks are on c1 and g1. The bishops are on d1, e1. The queen is on b1. And the king is on f1. Okay, so let's begin. We have the move c4 by HANS, opening up the queen, attacking the pawn on h7. We have the move c5. Okay, so just doing the same thing, but if white captures the pawn, it's actually a bad idea, because after knight g6, you will realize after rook h8 the queen is trapped. So basically the h7 pawn is a bait pawn. And yeah, you just have to play queen h3. That's the one of the only move, knight b6, and black is just having a very good activity. So that's why instead of capturing the pawn, we have the move simply castle up. That's it. Black does the same, and now we have the move knight to g3, developing the knight, because knight in the corner are usually dim. So we have the move knight g3, knight g6, knight b3, developing the knight, and also making sure to play the move d4 on the next move. Knight b6, and now first e3 before playing the move d4. We have e6, and now we have the move f4 by HANS. I was expecting d4, but d4 is already a bad move because you lose the pawn after takes, because the knight is also attacking the pawn on c4. So that's the very reason we have the move f4. Maybe the idea could be to attack with f5, which makes sense because your rook file is going to get opened up. We have f5. So till now, so far we have a symmetrical position. Black is making the same move white is making. We have to move bishop to f2. Maybe the idea could be to play bishop e2 with the idea of d4. We have bishop e7. Okay, now finally we have some difference. Bishop e2, and now we have the move d5 by Ding. Takes, and now we have the move d4. Takes, bishop to f7. So once again, we have a symmetrical position. Bishop to c4, rook to d8, bishop to b3, bishop to f6, knight e2, queen d6. We have a rook trade. We have some pawn pushes. And okay, the queen goes back. We have a trade of knights. And now we have the move e4, which was actually a bad move. Knight cross f4. Takes. And now, after e cross f5, there is a single move that can give Ding Liren some advantage to push for a win, which was to play the move e5. It looks like the idea is pretty straightforward actually. You can trade the bishops if you want. It looks like black is just losing a pawn on e5, but you ain't, because the moment you move your knight to capture the pawn, it's a check for now, so obviously I have to capture it. And if you try to capture the bishop back with the rook, you're getting checkmated on g2. That's the whole point. Then after e5, maybe you're even threatening e4, and the position is pretty good for black. Yeah. Instead, we have simply takes, and you will realize now the rook is powerful. So we have queen cross f5. We have knight to d3, attacking the rook and the bishop. The rook moved. We have queen to d5. So basically, if the black tries to capture the bishop, it would be a blunder. Because of knight e5 check, you can't really capture the knight, the bishop is pinned, and on the next move, black loses the queen. So that's why we have the move queen to d5 first, trading off the queens, which doesn't really make any sense, because if Ding wants to win, he has to at least keep the queens on the board. But we have a queen trade, and now Hans is like, okay, just let me try to trade off as many pieces as possible. Knight b4, we have a rook trade as well, knight d3. Both the players even trading off the knights, just pushing the pawns. Bishop e1, bishop f2, both the players. Obviously, Hans Niemann is not going to mess up, is he? Okay, we have a couple of moves, and both the players agreed to a draw. Why? Because it's pretty simple. Both the pawns are on the light square. Both the players are having the dark square bishop. The pawn is well protected, and there is not enough material on the board to win this position. So that's why we have a draw. Hans Niemann is pretty happy to advance to the next level, and Ding Liren is simply out of, simply get eliminated. So this was the second game played between Hans Niemann versus Ding Liren. What are your thoughts about this game? Let me know in the comments. And I hope you loved the analysis of this game, of both the games. If you did, make sure to like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you soon in the next one.